Is this the secret deck to beat the meta? I'm your host, Andre, the resident Haven player from HomieDrop, and this is a Set 7 Cool Idolmaster breakdown. The strategy revolves around playing cheap 1 or 2 cost guys to get aggressive with the opponent early on. Let's take a look at who's taking the stage. Let's talk about the list. We're playing 1 Honoka. She's an early body on turn 1, and later on can give another follower who just entered Rush. She's a 1 cost that comes up sometimes. Of course, because she's a 1 cost, she's really good at just being able to play on turn 1 and just get really aggressive. We really value aggression in Cool Idolmaster, so having a 1 cost follower is very important. Speaking of 1 cost followers, we're playing 3 Kako Takafuji with 1 Evolve. Her Evolve effect lets her deal 3 damage to your opponent's leader, which can clean up games sometimes. Her Evolve effect doesn't really come up too much, but comes up enough that you want to have it when you need it. And of course, we're playing her because she's a 1 cost follower, which in this deck is very good. And for the last 1 cost follower we're playing, of course it has to be Karen Hojo, Song for Life. She's a 1 cost follower with 3 attack and 2 defense, which is very big for a 1 cost follower. However, she comes with a slight stipulation. At the start of your end phase, if there are no other cool followers on your field, she'll deal 1 damage to herself. That's why you need to have other cool followers on the field. But if you do, having Karen Hojo on the field is a great asset for 1 cost. And of course, we can't forget her lesson effect. Basically, if you don't know what a lesson effect is, you use one of your magical items in place of 1 lesson. So for this effect, if you pay 3 play points and 1 lesson, she'll give each of your followers on the field plus 1 attack. So if you try to swarm the field with as many guys as possible, this is a really good effect. Overall, a good stat line and a pretty decent effect isn't anything to scoff at. We're also playing 2 Chizuru Matsu. Her fanfare and last words are basically the same, where you give another cool follower on your field plus 1 attack. Of course, this is really good at making your guys a little stronger. This is a great card to have on turn 2, because if you have a turn 1 play with Honoka, Kako, or Karen, you can make it where Chizuru gives them 1 additional attack to swing into your opponent with. And this makes it hard for your opponent to deal with. And having this last word makes it where your opponent has to get rid of her last, or risk giving one of your other cool followers on the field an additional attack. We're playing 3 Mio Honda. She's a 2 cost follower that has Storm, and combos with Uzuki, Shimamura, or Rin Shibuya when they're on the field. Uzuki giving her plus 1 defense, and Rin giving her plus 1 attack on strike. Though this deck is a Cool Idolmaster deck, she's actually a Passion follower, so do try to remember that. Because she's able to do fast damage, and combos with Rin Shibuya, she's a mandatory 3 of. We're playing 3 Nao Kamiya. When you have 2 other followers on the field, she'll be able to do 2 damage, which is good for shooting small guys or knocking down big guys for the rest of the squad to clean up. Cool Idolmaster is one of those decks that doesn't really have much removal, so finding cards that actually do have removal is quite important. We're also playing 3 Yukimi Sajo and 3 Evolves. She has a fanfare that doesn't come up too often, but if you play 2 play points and a lesson, she will get 1 attack and 1 defense. Her really good effect gives her plus 1 attack and rush a sail to another cool follower. As I said before, Cool Idolmaster kind of struggles with clearing board, so being able to hit standing guys with a sail is really useful. And of course, because she's evolved, she also has Rush herself. Being 3 attack and 3 defense is not a bad place to be at all. Now moving on to our 3 costs, we're playing 3 Kanade Hayami and 2 Evolves. She evolves for 1, and when she evolves, she can remove 2 lessons to select an enemy follower on the field and do 4 damage. This is really good utility because, as I said before, removal is quite scarce and cool. The amount of lessons we have to pay for this effect might be kinda steep, but because we're not using too many lessons in this deck, this isn't too bad of a price to pay. And the fact that we can do 4 damage means that we get to clear a lot of guys. And moving on to one of the best cards in our deck, we're going to Rin Shibuya, Triad Primus, that we're playing at 3. She's a 3 cost with Storm and Fanfare. If there are at least 3 cool followers on your field, you can select another follower with 3 or less attack and give it Storm. So not only does she have Storm, but she can give someone else Storm when you have 2 other guys on board. This can ramp up really quickly and bring a lot of damage, and considering that the investment's quite low, this is a really good effect. If you have any extra lessons or play points, you can use 1 lesson and play point to give her 1 additional attack. This can come up quite a lot, especially when you're trying to close out games. I'm pretty sure it's pretty frustrating when you have 1 more damage that you need to do, but you can't find it, and then your opponent just destroys you afterwards. It's not like it happened to me before or anything, but overall, she's a really powerful card with a very powerful effect. Speaking of powerful cards, we're playing 3 Uzuki Shimamura and 3 Evolves. Her fanfare makes it where you just remove a lesson to give your leader +1. This is pretty important for clearing space, but overall doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. But when you evolve her for 1, she gets a really powerful effect. She's able to search your deck for a follower with Rin Shibuya or Mio Honda in its name and put into your EX area, and it will cost 2 less to play this turn. Notably, you can get Mio Honda from earlier, which as I said, combos with Uzuki Shimamura. Or additionally, you get black or white Rin Shibuya, the white one which I'll cover later. Overall though, this is a really powerful effect, being super flexible and getting 2 bodies on board. Notably though, she is not a cool follower. The only 2 cards you have to worry about this for is Mio Honda because she's a passion, and Uzuki because she's a cute. And to fill up our last evolve slot, we're playing 2 Ranko Kanazaki and 1 she's a 4-cost guy who is really good board removal, as her fanfare lets her deal 2 damage to an enemy follower, and her active effect lets her pay 1 play point and 2 lessons to select up to 2 enemy followers and deal 2 damage to them. This eats up a lot of lessons, but is really cheap on the play point side. And of course on Evolve, she gets a look at the top 4 cards and put any of them into the EX area. Notably, she does put it in the EX area, which means that you should probably use your lessons beforehand. But as long as you have 1 slot available, it's all good. We're playing 2 Rin Shibuya. This one costs 4 and has Ward. This may seem like a weird pick to play, because our deck is trying to be a little more aggressive, but these fanfare effects are quite aggressive on their own. If you recall, Uzuki is able to bring out a Rin Shibuya, so you'll be able to activate the first fanfare effect quite easily, dealing 5 damage to a guy on board. In addition, if you have Mio Honda on the field, you'll be able to do 5 damage to each enemy leader. This is a great way to poke your opponent for a lot of damage and keep a big body on board. Of course, having both is the most optimal, but don't be afraid to use it for one or the other effect. We're playing 3 Yasa Okazaki. She's a really good 4-cost card, with a fanfare to search your deck for a cool follower that costs 2 or less, summon it, and then shuffle your deck. We're able to get Chizuru or Nao if we only have 4 play points, or if we have extra, we can get Yukimi and Evolver. In a pinch, we can also grab Honoka, ISA, or if we're trying to poke for damage to finish off the game, we can grab Tako and Evolver. Because she's so flexible and she's able to bring out basically anyone, she's a 3 of. Finally, we're getting on to the more expensive but much more powerful cards in the deck. We're playing 3 Nao Kamiya over the Rainbow. She's a 5-cost card with a fanfare to look at the top 5 cards of your deck and play up to 2 cool followers with a cost that totals 4 or less. This is a really strong effect because you're able to grab almost anyone from the deck. Some notable cards that you can grab are Rin Shibuya Triprimus or Karen Hojo. Dark Rin is a really good effect because if you have 3 cool followers on your board, you're able to give Nao Kamiya that Storm, definitely one of the best cards of the deck. And finally, we're playing 3 Fumika. She's a 7-cost card with the fanfare to search your deck for a 3-cost follower and a 1-cost follower and summon them. In addition, whenever an Eye Mask follower is put onto your field, you can select an enemy follower on the field and deal it 2 damage. This is a really good effect because using her fanfare, she gets to do 2 damage twice to your opponent's board. Overall, this is one of the power players that lets you close out the game. Now that we know what the cards actually do, let's see how they work together. A nice combo with Nao is with an empty board. If you play Nao from hand and you see Dark Rin and a 1-cost follower, you can play them and have Rin give Nao Storm to get 6 damage immediately. Fumika is great on 7, but can do even more the more you got. With 7 play points, play Fumika to play Dark Rin and Karen. This deals a total of 4 damage to followers on board and 6 storm damage. Overall, it's a potent deck that can play a bit faster than the other meta decks. Despite its lackluster removal, it has high damage combos and lots of consistency. Expect to still see them around. These idols haven't retired just yet.